Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here, back with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Sunday, June the 16th, 2024. In today's update, we have two areas to monitor right now in the Atlantic side of things, with an area to watch in the southern Gulf of Mexico and another area that could impact Florida in the next 5 days. So, taking a look at the latest GOES 16 true color visible satellite imagery from tropicaltidbits.com at Levi Cowan website. And as we take a look here, we have a couple of areas to watch right now, not just one. We have an area to watch in the southern portion of the Gulf of Mexico that has now a high chance of tropical formation in the next 7 days. We also have another area to really watch, and this one could directly impact Florida or even southern Georgia, bringing some pretty heavy rainfall, some gusty winds, and this has a better chance of possibly becoming our next named storm. We could have two named storm systems by the time this is all said and done. And the one, again, is going to be impacting Florida in the next 5 days. Taking a look and timing this out on our GFS model, this is the Global Forecasting System Numerical Global Computer Model, and this is a look at your precipitation forecast. So light green shading indicates lighter rain, medium grade shading, such as the yellow colors, indicate moderate rainfall, and the red shading indicates much heavier rainfall. So looking at this on a better perspective for this afternoon, we can see where our monsoon gyre is. This is wind kind of turning within this location where we have southwesterly winds over the southern portion of the wave, and then winds kind of curve around from the northeast on the northwestern side of this wave envelope. So going forward in time, we can see how this becomes more better organized. So in the next couple of days, we could get a broadening type tropical storm or a tropical depression of the Atlantic hurricane season here in the southern half of the Gulf of Mexico. But again, regardless of tropical development, folks, we are talking about some immense rainfall rates, enough to cause some significant flooding in some areas. We are looking at coastal flooding, coastal impacts, high surf, you name it, power outages, some debris flows, and some mudslides in these areas within steeper terrain. So it's not just about that, oh, this is only going to be a tropical depression or a tropical storm. There will be significant impacts with these type of systems that are broad and very wet in nature. And this is going to be also impacting, look at this, southern Texas perhaps in the next 3 days. There are going to be a lot of heavy rainfall and coastal flooding impacts, maybe some coastal flooding here as well. It really just depends on exactly where this is going to be headed. If we take a look at the GFS, some of the models have trended further northward. So now for Houston, Corpus Christi, even San Angelo, Texas, Austin, Texas, yeah, you could be seeing some big time rainfall and additional flooding. You've already had some impacts with that derecho bringing some flooding back in May. You're going to probably be seeing the same thing again with this type of system, only no derecho, but you're going to be seeing some prolonged periods of heavy rainfall. And then that makes its way onshore and bringing a lot of rain across much of Texas, while there's going to be more moisture down here across, say, Costa Rica. If you're in Venezuela, those areas down here too, portions of that, you can be looking at some rain. Now, another system that we really want to focus on is, I'm going to do a deep zoomed in view here, is while we are also watching the Gulf of Mexico, we really need to be keeping our eyes peeled for our other disturbance over here, kind of on the bottom right side of the screen. Again, this is from the GFS model, and we can see this does become a bona fide tropical storm, perhaps. This is for Wednesday, the next 3 days from now. We'll see what the NHC will do in the next couple of days if they up their chances on this. But either way, this is going to bring some impacts such as heavy rainfall, gusty winds, some storm surge, because you're going to have gale and storm force winds, perhaps even tropical storm force winds, especially on the northern side of this. Because when you think about it, because the system is moving this way, you tend to get your stronger winds on the northern side of these systems. So that's what seems to be happening. And when we do take a look at our low-level winds, we can see there is indeed tropical storm force winds, really well deep there, 34 knots, that's tropical storm force, and we have 46 to even 50 knot winds. That's very strong. Even at the surface, we do see winds that could get very close to tropical storm force as well. So definitely a system we really need to watch for closely. So now how much rainfall could we see out of these both systems? Now, one portion of the system is here, another portion. And you can see over central Florida with that little system, you might get a couple of inches of rainfall as that transverses central Florida. Now, our disturbance over here in the southern portion of the Bay of Campeche, western Gulf of Mexico, and even for southern Texas on this model run from the GFS, you could get as much as 4 to even as much as 8 inches of rainfall in the matter of, say, 4 to 5 days. And if we actually go back in time, we can see how that all evolves. You literally go from just only having a couple of hundredths of an inch to having a lot of rain really quickly, and that's why there's going to be some flood problems there. If we look at the previous model runs, there has been consistency from run to run from the GFS. There's going to be a lot of rain involved. Even the Canadian model also consistent with this prediction that there's going to be a lot of rainfall over central southern Texas, especially for early next week. And again, this would make landfall somewhere between Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday, bringing a lot of rain, not next week, but this week. All right, now another model that I always like to look at is going to be the European model. Actually, let me see if I can get a better view on this to show you all. So this is the ECMWF model, the vorticity plot. And as we go forward, we can see what all happens here. So we got one vorticity maximum. This is spin in the atmosphere. We have another area of spin that's going to be in place over the Yucatan Peninsula. And these are going to do a little do-si-do dance and kind of envelope into this bigger, larger wave envelope. And that's why the European model has some pretty hefty winds. If we actually look at the surface winds, that's 36 to even 40 miles an hour sustained. So that is tropical storm force, and you bet there's going to be storm surge and some high surf along the southeastern coast here of Texas by Wednesday and Thursday. Now that wave envelope on the European model, if we go back and look at our vorticity plot, we can see there it is right there on your screen. Not as well defined as what the GFS has it, because if we go back a couple of runs ago, you can see it looked a lot more promising, possibly a bona fide system here. Now in today's European model run, it's a lot further northeast, but again, models are going to go back and forth, hand in hand on exactly what's going to happen. The Canadian model has a bit more handle on this, with more kind of like a non-closed tropical wave, maybe a tropical depression at the very most. And when we look at the Icon model, also somewhat bona fide, as you can see there, with that vorticity, with that spin, with that wave envelope. Now, of course, the Gulf is recordly warm at this time of the year. We're looking at the 15th of June. So this is delayed roughly about a day, but it does a pretty good job at analyzing what our sea surface temperatures are like. So the entire Gulf and some portions of the Gulf are running well above average. These are the darker red colors. The purple colors are nearly record-breaking sea surface temperatures, or probably doing so right now. None of the Gulf that I can see here is seeing sea surface temperatures that are below average. So definitely excessively warm, a lot of latent heat release, and that's really troubling of this wave that's moving over the southern Gulf of Mexico. When we take a look at our actual sea surface temperatures right now over the Gulf, they are very warm. We are seeing at sea surface temperatures in these areas that I'm circling that are in the mid to upper 80s already in Fahrenheit. So definitely enough of latent heat being stored in the oceans. And if that gets released into these tropical systems, they can fly very quickly. Our shelf waters along the Florida coast are probably even getting into the upper 90s. We got some, not upper 90s, upper 80s, excuse me, there, with sea surface temperatures as warm as probably even 90 degrees along the shelf waters here of southern or the coast of Louisiana. But just remind you, shelf waters are able to cool down quickly with thunderstorms and some gusty winds versus the deeper waters that are in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, another product that I like to use in these videos is the upper ocean heat content. Definitely very warm out there. We've talked about this in previous videos, how our upper ocean heat content is the highest it has ever been this time of the year And these upper ocean heat content values would represent those in late August into early September. So we're still about a couple of months, maybe perhaps 3 months ahead of schedule as far as our upper ocean heat content goes. And this will continue to go up and up as we go throughout the rest of the hurricane season. As I mentioned, at the Gulf of Mexico, sea surface temperatures here as a whole are definitely well above average. We can see already the 80-degree isotherm is already approaching Bermuda. It usually doesn't get there until mid to late July. We're already seeing that as of mid-June. So again, in this area locally, about a month and a half or so ahead of schedule. Lots of warm sea surface temperatures here in the deep tropics over the Caribbean, running into the mid to perhaps almost upper 80s for this time of the year. So that is not good news at all, because later on in the period, when we get into our more active part of the Atlantic hurricane season, which isn't usually until mid to late or from mid-August through mid-September, we could be looking at some intense long-track hurricanes this year, and some of them, if they make landfall, it won't end very well. And that's why we are making these updates as often as we can in these discussions. So our the amount of heat that is in the ocean is quite phenomenal. The sea surface temperature anomalies definitely well above average in the deep tropics of the main development region. We have really warmed it up here across the higher latitudes of the Atlantic, which actually might play a little bit of a role and a little bit of a wrench in our actual hurricane or seasonal output here in the next couple of months, because this could diverse some of the upward motion here that is otherwise needed to get cyclones coming off of Africa to develop into tropical storms. But otherwise, the entire Atlantic here is very warm, and recordly warm perhaps in some of these areas, something that we have not seen in modern satellite era. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion, this is the 18th episode beginning the season for Sunday, June the 16th, 2024. If you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the like button and share this video. Please share this, folks. You guys got this. For more information on the tropics, and as well, please consider also leaving a comment in the section below this video. I'm going to probably be doing some live streams this coming week on the tropics, since we have a couple of areas to really watch and do some discussions like that. So anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll be back with you more tomorrow in the tropics.